Hey, what's going on? How's it going? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of today's Core Daily, and I was going to talk to you guys about a thing. Now, you may say to yourself, I remember a podcast where John talked about the very thing I'm about to talk about, and you would not be wrong. Some time ago, he played the demo for Gal Guardians Demon Purge. Yeah, that's right. Gal Guardians Demon Purge. And the summary of this game, I'll just give you how they summarize it on Steam, which is where I'm playing it. In order to save their school after it turns into a massive demonic castle, two demon hunter sisters slash and shoot their way through this 2D action adventure. Players can swap between and control both characters on the fly, each with entirely different skill sets. That's an accurate description of what this game's about. John described it as a little bit of Metroidvania, and I like those, so I was curious about it at the time, but it wasn't out on anything but the Switch, and I didn't want to get it there, so I thought, well, I'll wait for it for a while. Thankfully, the developers of this game gave me a key, and I've been playing it, thanks to them, on Steam now that it's out there. It's also out on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series S and X are all playable versions of this game are on all these consoles, as well as Steam, as I mentioned. A little bit of background on the game. NT Creates, which is the name of the studio, their CEO wanted to make an action game for the Kazumono sisters, Kamizono sisters, I think is what they're called. They're famous for being in a ton of other games. Galgun series director Manasori Ito was later brought onto the project, and they chose Shinobu and Maya, the sisters, as protagonists in the game because they were popular overseas. So a lot of you may be hearing these two sisters' names and going, I don't know who they are. Well, neither did I, really, going into this, but apparently they're a big deal. The game was 10 to 15% complete in September of 2022. The game's name was changed from Grim Guardians Demon Purge to Gal Guardians Demon Purge due to some trademark dispute that they had going on. The game was re-released on the Nintendo eShop on April 12th, 2023, and just the last little while this showed up on other platforms, including the Steam version that I'm playing. So for me, the real winner here is the combat. Swapping between the sisters feels great, and the gun weapon in particular feels really, really great, but there are times where you need a melee focus, and the game lets you do that and lets you just as easily switch back. Be warned, it's not a Metroidvania in the way that you may think. Metroidvania is being all about backtracking certain areas, getting abilities unlocked as you go, opening up brand new areas, this sort of thing, and having it all be very puzzly and not always obvious about where you're going to go next and that sort of thing. Very non-linear type experiences usually in terms of how platformers go. But this is a more, despite its tone and look, because it does look a lot like a Castlevania game, it's more of a side-scrolling action platformer, is how I would describe it. And I don't mean that as a bad or a negative thing. It's just different than you may think going into it. As a solid action platformer, I think it's really fun. It also has, like I said, those Castlevania vibes. It's got that Metroidvania feel. There's some light puzzles, findable items here and there. But the combat really is everything in this game. And thankfully, it's really tight and feels really good. If you like side-scrolling action games with a retro look, then this is probably a good game for you, especially if you want to add on to that very tight controls in combat. It's a very strong pick. So, my overall take, Gal Guardians Demon Purge, it's got a colon in it, is quite good and worth your time. If you're the audience that likes side-scrolling action games, no reason not to do this. If you're already familiar with these sisters and the rest of the lore around this, even better, because then you kind of get all that. I didn't know any of that coming into this, so this is the only game I had played in the quote-unquote series of games featuring these characters. But as a first impression, it makes a strong one, and I think John was right back then to praise that demo as being great because of how it felt, because the game feels really good to play. Gal Guardians Demon Purge is currently on Steam for a whopping $24.99. You can also get it on the Switch for the same price, and it looks like all console versions are also priced at $24.99. I will talk about this game and everything else I played this week on Core, the proper podcast, which happens on Thursdays, so please come and watch then. And now this. I was playing Black Desert Online. Bo got me in the mood for it. The last episode we did, we talked a little bit about reinstalling Black Desert and seeing what was going on with that new expansion / content. And so I did. And I was reminded about how silly that game can be. So here's a scene with some food, and it's weird. And that's all I have to say about it. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Get more at frogpants.com.